great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world, he was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
Integrated digital ID ecosystem developed in collaboration with Canada's best and brightest talent from our banks, telecommunication companies, law enforcement, and government. It would have the power and security to store every Canadian's electronic identity and attributes, and it would unlock countless opportunities for Canadians to verify who they are safely, quickly, and securely, while only revealing the information necessary for each transaction. A fast, easy, and secure way to bank, sign up for government services, renew driver's licenses or health cards, shop, travel, and more. Canada's banks are perfectly situated to help lead the creation of a federated digital ID system between government and the private sector. The World Economic Forum agrees that banks and financial institutions should lead the path forward for digital ID.
Morning.
At the world's busiest airport in Atlanta,
All right, you're fully verified.
the TSA checkpoint has gotten a high-tech upgrade.
You're going to take your ID, insert it into the card reader.
Using this facial recognition camera system to compare a flyer's face to their picture on their ID in seconds.
All right, ma'am, you're verified. Thank you very much. You can step around.
If there's not a match, like here in this demonstration, the TSA officer is alerted for further review.
It's showing that the ID is a valid ID. It's showing non-match because those are two different people.
We view this as better for security, much more efficient because the image capture is fast.
TSA Administrator David Pekoski.
How does that speed things up?
Well, facial recognition, first and foremost, is much more accurate. And we've tested this extensively. It brings the accuracy level close to 100% from like mid 80% with just a human looking at a facial match.
The program has been rolled out to more than 24 airports nationwide since 2020, but is currently voluntary for flyers. Most images are deleted after use, but some information is encrypted and retained for up to 24 months as part of the ongoing review of how the technology performs. There are skeptics. 5 U.S. senators sent this letter demanding TSA halt the program.
You don't have to compromise people's biometric security in order to provide physical security at airports.
And privacy advocates worry about the lack of regulations around facial recognition and its tendency to be less accurate with people of color.
You have 5 senators that have called on TSA to stop the program. Why continue moving forward with it?
I agree with them in that I want to protect privacy for every passenger and that I want to deploy technology that's accurate and doesn't disadvantage anybody.
As for passengers opting to use it,
this is a lot quicker way to get through.
Got nothing to hide. So no concerns here. I think it's great.
TSA plans to add the technology to at least 3 more airports by the end of the year. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Atlanta.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants,
and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name.
And we measure your brain waves, and I can immediately tell you how the people react, or I can feel how the people react to your answers. Is it imaginable?
Elon Musk's brain implant company Neuralink said on Thursday it had been given a green light from the US FDA to kickstart its first-in-human clinical study. It's a critical milestone for Neuralink after earlier struggles to gain approval.
We're confident that it is possible to restore full-body functionality.
On at least 4 occasions since 2019, Musk has said his medical device company would begin human trials for a brain implant to treat severe conditions such as paralysis and blindness. Yet the company only sought Food and Drug Administration approval in early 2022, and the agency rejected the application, sources linked to the company told Reuters in March. The sources said the FDA had pointed out several concerns to Neuralink that needed to be addressed before sanctioning human trials. They include the device's battery, as well as safety issues surrounding its wires and the protection of brain tissue. Thursday's FDA approval comes as U.S. lawmakers are urging regulators to investigate the oversight of animal testing at Neuralink. The company has already been the subject of federal probes, including at least one linked to animal testing and treatment. In a tweet on Thursday, Neuralink said it was excited to share the news of the approval, but that it's not yet recruiting for a clinical trial. Over the years, Musk has publicly outlined an ambitious plan for Neuralink. He envisions its devices to cure a range of conditions from obesity, autism, depression, schizophrenia, to enabling web browsing and even telepathy, and that both disabled and healthy individuals would be swiftly getting surgical implants at local centers.
A new way to check out could come in handy. Amazon says by the end of this year, customers at all Whole Foods stores in the U.S. can pay with their palms. The first users can enroll by inserting a credit card. Then they hover a hand over a special camera, which scans the lines and veins and links the payment to their unique palm print.
You ready?
The next visit to the store, they just scan their hand to pay.
I was really excited because I've been hearing about this for a long time.
Maxine Most tried it at her local Whole Foods. She's one of 3 million who have signed up so far.
It's way easier for me to go to Amazon and just stick my hand over their little reader than it is for me to worry about whether I have my wallet.
Still, those who opt in may be giving up all kinds of personal information that could be used for advertising and tracking.
I am sure that Amazon and other organizations are going to scale this technology very quickly if it means that they're able to get more revenues.
Amazon says the system is secure and that it won't share the data. But this tech analyst warns there are always risks.
So from a privacy standpoint, from a security standpoint, from the fact that what happens if this information was to ever get breached and get into the hands of wrong people?
You can go ahead. Yet paying by palm is going mainstream. Panera Bread and Starbucks are testing out the tech. Some sports stadiums are also on board.
China has been a test bed for this for many years. It's called the social credit scoring system that they've had in place for years. And if you look at that, it's not just a digital economy over in China, cashless, but your behavior is monitored. Yes. That's the other half of this thing. You don't get to buy and sell if your behavior doesn't comply with the government. And this has been out there for years, and I think they're working out the bugs on it. And basically in Asia right now, if you don't, if you say anything bad about the government, you're in big trouble economically. You can't fly a plane, you can't board a train, you can't get a loan. Yeah. And it isn't just you got to listen and do what the government tells you to do, or if you speak out against them. It's what you post on social media. Yeah. It's who you hang out with, because they can see you through the CCTV camera system. And then even things like if you jaywalk or if you let your dog go to the bathroom and you don't clean it up, you get punished economically. They will reward you over there if you turn in somebody that you saw doing something bad.
And ye shall be betrayed, both by parents and brethren and kinsfolks and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death.
To Germany. Maybe they didn't. It's like, what? Yeah. It's crazy. So you're going like, well, too bad for China. Well, guess what? This is what's going on that people need to realize. It's going all over the world, including here in the United States of America. It's called the CBDC. Of course, they don't call it the social credit scoring system because people are starting to catch on to what's going on in China. But basically, Klaus Schwab, and it's also on tape that he admits that China is basically a role model, and he admits that they're the next world superpower.
To the leadership of China in terms of fighting the pandemic, in terms of reinvigorating its economy, we have now a window of opportunity to create this global reset which we all need.
So I think they're working with China, and that they're basically the test bed. But they basically want to bring the China model to the whole world. The term that's out there, if you want to check it out, is called techno-communism. Techno-communism.
Economic Forum, the Federal Reserve, and Bill Gates have all been pushing for a centralized bank digital currency, or CBDC, for some time. And we all know that CBDCs can be a threat to our individual freedoms and liberty. But there is one group recently that confirmed a planned development of an international CBDC, a digital currency that could be used internationally to trade and make investments. And if that sounds familiar to you, this might pave for the way for a one world currency that is ultimately managed by a one world government. So let's go and talk about the group itself that's planning to develop an international CBDC. The group consists of countries like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This group, some of you may know, is known as BRICS. They say that the BRICS goal is to promote peace, security, development, and cooperation.
For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape.
Five BRICS countries, we have reached agreement on the guiding principles, standards, criteria, and procedures of the BRICS expansion process, which has been in discussion for quite a while. We have consensus on the first phase of this expansion process, and other phases will follow. We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of BRICS. The membership will take effect from the 1st of January 2024.
Who's Klaus Schwab's favorite disciple on tape? Mr. Biden, right? Biden was brought in to purposely destroy the American economy. And you're going like, well, why would he do that? Because what's Klaus's goal? He wants to reset the global economy. Well, if you're going to reset the global economy, make it cashless and control the whole thing, then you got to get rid of the current one. Well, who's the current reserve for the global economy? What does the world economy revolve around? The US dollar.
That's right.
So if you're going to reset it, what do you got to do first? Get rid of the US dollar.
It's crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. There will be no defeat like that. That will take us away from being even a great power.
Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more.
That's why Biden was brought in. That's why the very first thing he did when he got in office was what? The very first day, shut the pipelines off. He began to do things to purposely hurt our economy, destroy our economy, and he hasn't stopped yet. He's making deliberate decisions to deliberately destroy our economy because he works for Schwab, and you've got to destroy the American economy before you can reset the global. And here's what people need to realize. They're doing it on purpose. Because once you see who they're working for, Schwab, and once you see his in-game plan, reset, it all makes sense. Schwab has been training people, including Biden, for years, and he's planted them for the last 50 years in every major developed country in the world. That's why the world had such a uniform procedure when it comes to the COVID pandemic. That's why the world right now has the same procedure when it goes to a digital currency. Every major developed is doing it because they're working for Schwab. An executive order is 14067, and this was last March, over a year ago now, that he signed that, and basically it paves the way for when the right crisis comes along, we can switch in America to a digital currency so that this will never happen again. It will guarantee that we're not going to have, whatever crisis it could be. It could be an economic crisis, it could be another pandemic, it could be, Klaus is big on this, he's always talking about a cyber pandemic, whatever, things of that nature. But whatever it is, it'll become an excuse to, see, we're going to switch. But the misnomer is, this has been pre-planned. And this is what the other countries are doing. Now, of course, you can't call it the social credit score system. You can't say, hey, it's basically techno-communism, what China's doing, and it's going to control every aspect of your life. You can't say that, it's too obvious. So the term out there now, what they call this is the coming digital dollar. Some of the terms out there is called Biden bucks. But the other term that people might hear of, it's called CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency.
Right.
The reason why it's central bank is because everything would be digital, but there will be a central bank, basically a main hub, that will be tied together with every financial institution, and they will literally monitor in real time every single transaction you can.
I believe we have a compromised president. Russia and China are even doing military exercises near the Aleutian Islands, right off the coast of Alaska. And Biden sits back on his hands, he does nothing. This never would have happened if I was president. If they even thought about it, I would have shut it down instantly. There's no way they would have done any of this.
Tensions between the U.S., China, and Russia, with the U.S. Navy sending destroyers to the coast of Alaska last week after nearly a dozen Russian and Chinese warships were spotted patrolling nearby international waters, very nearby. Weijia Zhang is at the White House for us with more on what all this means. Weijia, good morning.
Good morning to you, Tony. Good morning to everybody. Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan called the size of the Chinese and Russian joint operation unprecedented. He says the U.S. deployed 4 Navy destroyer ships near the Aleutian Islands in response to those 11 Chinese and Russian warships near U.S. waters. The U.S. Northern Command says the Chinese and Russian patrol remained in international waters and wasn't considered a threat. But the show of force is a reminder of the cooperation of Chinese and Russian militaries, as well as how close the countries are to Alaska. A similar joint exercise took place last year in September. The U.S. Coast Guard encountered 7 Chinese and Russian ships near Alaska, all in a single formation. Now, China and Russia have increased their ties amid tensions with the U.S. over Taiwan and Ukraine, making situations like this more alarming.
But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by.
Russia invading Ukraine would have never happened, and China wouldn't even be thinking about Taiwan right now. Crooked Joe's corruption is a glaring threat to national security. Between the millions and millions of dollars he's gotten from China and the millions of dollars from Ukraine, Joe Biden's greed and criminality is going to get us into World War III. We're going to be in World War III with this guy.
Everything that NBC News and the New York Times have told you about the war in Ukraine is a lie. The Russian army is incompetent, they claim. Ukraine is a democracy. Vladimir Putin is Hitler and he's trying to take over the world. Thankfully, the Ukrainians are winning. None of that is true. Every claim is false, the last one especially. The Ukrainian army is not winning. In fact, it's losing badly. Ukraine is being destroyed. Its population is being slaughtered in lopsided battles with a technologically superior enemy, or scattered by the millions to the rest of the globe as refugees. Ukraine is running out of soldiers. As that happens, the question will inevitably arise, who's going to replace them? If the Ukrainians can't beat Putin, who will? The answer, of course, will be us. American troops will fight the Russian army in Eastern Europe. That's most likely. And the assumption is we'll win. But will we win? Probably not, says former Army Colonel Douglas Macgregor, a decorated combat veteran who advised the Secretary of Defense in the last administration. The U.S., says Macgregor, is on the brink of a catastrophic war that could very easily destroy us. Few Americans seem to understand that, but they should.
We just entered the most dangerous phase of the coming hot war with Russia and China, and no one is prepared for what's coming. Everyone but a few smart people are actually ignoring it. The media would rather distract you with new COVID variants and masking concerns at your children's school. Those are important stories, but they're missing the most important story in the world, and they're all ignoring it right now. Look at Drudge today, for crying out loud. Look at CNN, top story about Burning Man. What about Fox News? Nope, it's all about DeSantis. But don't fall for it. It's all a misdirection. Look over here while President Biden is caught taking millions of dollars from foreign companies. Look over here while Americans are losing their jobs, and new data this morning shows 61% of Americans are now living paycheck to paycheck. Credit card debt, the highest it's ever been. And inflation is going to run hot for years. So what's a good way to distract from a crumbling economy if you're President Biden heading into an election season? Start a war with Russia. Wag the dog. Did you ask for a war with Russia? No, neither did I. But you're about to get one. And my friend Tucker Carlson just exposed the entire plan.
So once you start indicting your political opponents, you know that you have to win or else they're going to indict you if they win, right?
Right.
And so they can't lose. They will do anything to win. So how do they do that? They're not going to do COVID again. I know everyone on the right's afraid they're going to do COVID and mask mandate. They're not going to do that. They can't do that. If they've already been exposed, that won't work. There's going to be, no, what are they going to do? They're going to go to war with Russia is what they're going to do. There will be a hot war between the United States and Russia in the next year. And
really?
Yes, of course. They want it anyway.
A hot war with Russia. Remember, we're at war with Russia already, but we're doing it through a proxy, using Ukrainians to fight the war, sending them billions of dollars in weapons. More than 400,000 Ukrainians are now dead. More than 2.5 million are permanently disabled. So we're using Ukraine until we can't use them anymore. When all of their men are dead, then we'll have to send our own troops. And it's all part of the plan, which Congressman Adam Schiff explained. We fight Russia over there so we don't have to fight them here in Washington, D.C.
The United States aids Ukraine and her people so that we can fight Russia over there and we don't have to fight Russia here.
Now, Tucker only exposed one big piece of this plan, which is the Russian piece. The other piece is the economic side, which we'll get into in a second. But first, on the Russian side, the Biden administration quietly laying out a plan to make it impossible for any future president to keep us out of a hot war with Russia. By the way, Russia has already said that this will lead to direct war with their military, and China is standing by, ready to jump in. So according to the Wall Street Journal, what the Biden administration did is astonishing. They introduced a plan to permanently fund Ukraine's proxy war against Russia, and the structure would make it impossible for a future president to undo the plan. What is the likelihood that in the next few months we are involved in a nuclear war with Russia? Colonel Tony Schaefer says 80%. And he agrees with Tucker on this, and he says we are headed for a nuclear war with Mother Russia. Russia is not bluffing. They've now put their nuclear arsenal on the highest alert possible for the first time ever. Quoting now, the nuclear-capable Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile system was previously touted by President Putin as being capable of hitting any target on Earth, and is widely believed to be by far the longest-range missile in Russia's arsenal. And it's been nicknamed by NATO the Satan II. Nice name. Satan II. The timing of all of this is on purpose, of course. Putin is not bluffing. This warhead can wipe out a country the size of France. Just one rocket, and it can't be shot down. Putin says, quote, the new complex has the highest tactical and technical characteristics and is capable of overcoming all modern means of anti-missile defense. It has no analogs in the world and won't have for a long time to come. In other words, nothing can stop it and nothing can come close. Oh, good. So why don't we keep poking the bear, President Biden? The reason the United States is so desperate, though, is because the U.S. economy and the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar, which of course is losing favor around the world to settle oil transactions as the world's reserve currency. It's slipping away beneath their feet right now.
How would you like to have your version, take a pick, of being associated with me, the Antichrist? And here's the reason why you're going to want to be my buddy. I've stopped the wars. I'm pretty famous for that. I fixed the global economy. This is how. Global debt reached an all-time high among all nations. They're all broke. They're living off a facade. And so what I did was, as I canceled all global currencies and digitized them. and brought it under one system of numerics. No more cash, only numbers.
Little children, it is the last time. And as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come, even now are there many Antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according as his work shall be. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last.